And it looks like we're live. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Psychedelic Light Show review. This is episode 2. I'm your host, Steve Pavlovsky of Liquid Light Lab, and I am here with my co host, Chris Samardizch of the Brotherhood of Light. So, we're doing a show here where we're basically talking about psychedelic light shows. We're talking about the old school stuff. We're doing some deep dives into history, and, just a lot of things about the scene and then the things surrounding it. We're going to get into technical stuff and, just kind of just talking about a part of history that's sort of been maybe lost or not always been talked about. So that's kind of the thing that we're doing. We're kind of illuminating this stuff here. As I said, we got my co-host here, Chris Samardizch, and so Chris has some pretty cool stuff for us. What do you got for us today, Chris?
Well, this week we're going to do the legendary venues of San Francisco, where the birth of the Psychedelic Light Show happened.
Nice.
And basically, we're going to cover from 1966 to about 1970, 71, when the business changed.
Mhm.
And we're going to cover the venues in San Francisco. I'll hit them first. We're going to hit the old Fillmore, the original Fillmore, the old Fillmore. And we're going to
Yeah.
go on to the Straight Ballroom in Haight Street. And then we're going to go to Chet Helms, Family Dog, Avalon Ballroom. And then we're going to go back to Bill Graham's Winterland. And then we're going to finish with the legendary Fillmore West.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And we're going to cover basically the shows that were the legends that did, they were probably there twice a month at each venue doing light shows. It's going to be Holy See was one of them, Little Princess 109, Jerry Abrams Headlights, Brotherhood of Light, and Heavy Water. And those were pretty much, and then also Glenn McKay. He was with Jerry and they split up, and he went on to do the Jefferson Airplane touring with them. So
Yeah.
we're going to have some shots of him too.
Yeah. So it's like a lot of legendary venues with tons of legendary rock acts that, I'm sure you're going to tell us about. And, these venues were like the cream of the crop. Like these were like the venues to be at, right? Like that you're going to be talking
Absolutely.
about. And then so some of the light shows too, like they were kind of these were the top light shows that you're also going to tell us about that, did the visuals and
Right. When I
projections
was
and
a kid, I hung out in San Bruno, which is 15 miles from San Francisco, and I used to go and watch the light show, which I mentioned on episode 1. And
yeah.
so then when I finally got old enough to take the bus up to San Francisco and walk to the Fillmore, I got to see like Jerry Abrams and Brotherhood of Light. And those were like, that was like seeing Led Zeppelin compared to your local band, the
Mhm.
Backyard Mamas in San Bruno, right? All of a sudden you're seeing the headliners. So they were the headline shows, they were
Yeah,
for
and they
real.
got yeah, I mean, and they literally were headliners. Like they would get billing on the rock on the posters and all that stuff. Like,
Yeah,
you
eventually
know,
they at
yeah,
first didn't, but then
they
they
first
did.
didn't, but eventually they made sure they got on there
They actually
because
became names, like I just told you.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like,
Because it was an art form. They were performers, just and artists and creatives, just as much as the bands were, and you know, so yeah, it's a pretty cool time in history that we're going to talk about. Um, so I guess you said you got some slides for us, and you're going to show us around old San Francisco a little bit, huh?
well, let's roll, man. Let's go.
Yeah, let's do it. All right,
Okay,
cool.
there is the old Fillmore.
So this is the
Okay,
first
can you
one.
see that laser pointer there?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so this right here, this street here is Fillmore Street,
Hmm.
and this street is Geary Boulevard. Okay, and this is kind of the bus stop right in front of the Fillmore. That's the doorway to the Fillmore. Okay, so this neighborhood back in 1966, when Bill took it over, was basically kind of like a New Orleans of San Francisco. It had gambling joints and bars and jazz clubs
Yeah,
and
it's kind of
that sort of
grimy.
thing going on. It
Yeah,
was not.
kind
It
of
was
seedy.
yeah. It was gnarly. And but just across the street, on the other side of Geary, was Upper Fillmore, which was like for lack of other words, at the time they didn't exist, yuppies,
Mhm.
rich people. There was churches, and there was an ice skating rink called Winterland across the street. So they were like 2 blocks apart,
All right.
these two venues. Anyway, let's get back to the Fillmore. So what happened was Bill was running uh, the Mind Troop business. The Mind Troop's like a lefty organization that did plays in like parks and stuff. And Bill was a capitalist, and they were liberal, left wing. I don't want to use the word commies, but so anyway, they got busted for having nudity and profanity. They put on this benefit, and so in their loft down in downtown San Francisco, they put on a benefit to raise money for their legal funds, and 1,000 people showed up.
Wow.
And Bill just saw, money in his eyes, right? So he went to this Fillmore, you see here in the picture, and Charles Sullivan was the owner, a black guy, and he rented it for $60 and did another benefit. Well, then it was packed, 1,300 people. So he decided to do shows. So he got it for $300 a month.
Wow.
Okay. But he really wasn't in the scene, and the guys that were in the scene that came were like Chet Helms and the Family Dog, who did dance parties in San Francisco, like California Hall and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so he went to Chet. Let's go to the Chet slide right now. So he meets up with Chet Helms, and he says, let's do. You got the bands, I got the hall. Let's be partners. So unlikely partner. You got the total guru hippie guy, and you got the total capitalist from the
right. And that's Chet on the left, Bill Graham on the right.
Bill Graham on the right.
Yeah.
So so here they start doing these shows, like this. And there's the light show. As you can see, that's the old Fillmore. It's like one of the first shows. Guys are stand-up bass, piano. And then we move on to, there's just some, liquid lights going on,
nice.
And people are all dancing, having a good time. And so Chet Helms, after 2 months, decides to book Paul Butterfield Blues Band. So he books him. He gets 3 sellouts, and Bill is really impressed. He says, "Oh man, you're doing great." The next morning, Bill Graham wakes up, calls Albert Grossman in New York, and says, "I want exclusive on Paul Butterfield." And Grossman gives it to him. And so the next day, Chet goes, "Screw you, you screwed me, I'm out of here." So he leaves and goes and finds a month later the Avalon Ballroom and sets up a similar operation there.
Mm-hmm.
So they split. Okay. So now here's Bill. Boom, he's got the Jefferson Airplane,
Yeah. And this is at the Fillmore.
At the Fillmore, you can see there's this, definitely it. And then
I know that, and I know that, one of the big things about light shows at this time was you kind of really needed the light shows, right? Because these venues didn't really come with their own stage lighting, and even like regular concert lighting wasn't quite invented yet, right?
well, in '66, the light show was it. And,
That was it. That was the only source of light.
yeah, and he hired the light show because of necessity for lighting. But
Right.
it was also part of the trippy '60s, Now this is still '66. Okay, so here he's got Mike Bloomfield, Paul Butterfield, and you can see the liquid lights are the only thing that's lighting the guy up.
Yeah.
And a great shot, and then there's another shot. So he's got Grateful Dead, Jefferson Airplane, but there's no light show on the poster because he's just hiring like Ben Van Meter and Bill Ham, and they're just coming in and doing this. He's kind of using them like a lighting technician more than a company.
Right.
Okay. So now you can see how much light show they did at the Fillmore.
Wow. Damn.
And they got it wrap around, around the stage and then all the way around the right side with slides and mainly liquids in the middle and on the slides. And now he starts to get some good acts coming, like Jim Morrison and the Doors.
Yeah.
He's got that wraparound screen all the way around. And so this is the Fillmore that's open now, the same building. They reopened it. It closed. We're going to get to that. All right. So here's John Chipolina and Quicksilver.
Yeah.
And there they are. And this is more hard images.
Right. Like static slides.
Yeah. It's like film positives and maybe candy dishes. And it's not liquids, because the thing is that when you have your opener act, you don't want to just do all your liquids and your movie loops
The
and
real
stuff.
trippy
You want to
stuff.
like
Yeah.
kind of break them in, with the openers. Obviously, there's not that many
Right.
people at this point. And then when all of a sudden, the Grateful Dead come on, or whoever it may be, boom, there's the
Boom.
big full-blown liquid,
And the
full house.
psychedelic stuff comes out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they're up in the balcony and they're projecting a lot of liquids, as you can
Yeah, and
see.
you can see all the overhead projectors up there, and yeah. Yeah, very cool. So
Yeah,
what this is, do you know who this light show is here? Is this Brotherhood of
I don't
Light,
know who it
maybe?
is. I mean, this went. They went for 66 and 67, the Fillmore, and then
Okay.
he moved it to another building.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know if they even named the light shows on the posters at this point until they got to the Fillmore West. But that's another chapter we're going to get
Ah,
later on the show.
okay.
So now I'm going to show you. This is the poster room that's there now, and it
Uh-huh.
starts with these early posters up here. The laser pointer
Yep.
goes, and it just progresses. This one right here is New Year's 1967. So that's a 66.
Uh-huh.
And then it just keeps going. And all the way over to here is 70.
Yeah.
And that's when the Brotherhood of Light and all these bands are
And I mean,
working.
and there was incredible art on these posters. I mean, that's its own,
Now look at cream. There's a cream you can actually read.
yeah.
Okay, so now I'm going to move on to the next one. So now they've reopened the Fillmore. And these are all current ones that they've done.
Yeah.
And what they would do is when you'd walk out at the end of the show, they would hand you a poster, but that was for next week.
So they actually gave them out to you.
Yeah, they
Because
still do.
now people wait in line and pay top dollar for any concert poster, but they would just give them to
The
you.
Fillmore give you posters of
Wow.
the show you were at.
Yeah.
Still
Wow.
today. I mean, it has to be like a sellout. It can't be a flop. You know what I mean?
Right, right. But if it's good, if they can afford it, they would give it to you. That's
Okay, so
pretty cool.
Here's Bill at his venue, famous shot, light show screen in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's the Fillmore, as you can see. And
Yeah.
so we're about ready to go on to the next. Let's just go to black.
Yeah. So.
And do you want to go to the? Okay, there we are.
Yeah. So we'll just So I mean that's pretty cool. So there was just like because I know that one of the things that you said you wanted to talk about was there's a lot of confusion about like there were actually two different Fillmores. There was the old Fillmore, which was the first one, and then he moved on to the Fillmore West, which you're going to talk about. And now Bill Graham Presents, the organization, has actually moved the Fillmore now back into the original building, right?
Correct.
Like in
I'll just
present
give you
day.
brief history because we're trying to help people focus.
Yeah.
Like Dwayne Betts and Allman Betts band, he was like, "What? I'm confused. Fillmore West, Fillmore. We're playing the Fillmore, but my dad played the Fillmore West." Dickie Betts, and so
Yeah.
So the story goes, in '66 he opened it up, and it held 1,300 people. Okay.
Yeah.
Run long shows, so he kind of like with 50 people left, he could put 50 more in, but. The profit was not as good as it would be at a bigger venue. So
Right.
he moved to the Fillmore West, which is on Market and Van Ness, which we're going to get to. It's going to be our last sequence. And that held 2,500, the double capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Simultaneously to that, he opened the Fillmore East.
Oh, right. Because he was making some good money at this point.
All the money he made in the Summer of Love in '67 from running the Fillmore and the Winterland Ballroom, he took that money and he invested in these two, in doubling venues up, and kept Winterland running. Okay.
Right. So you and just real quick, for the folks who just about the kind of work that you do, you mentioned some of the Allman folks from the Allman family. You did the light show for the Allman Brothers from 90 to 91 till basically they retired, right? And maybe
14.
Yeah, 2014. But now you're still working with some of the younger members of the family, right?
Yeah, I actually went from the Allman Brothers to Greg Allman for his last 2 years.
Oh, okay, cool.
Touring.
Yeah.
So that was like 26 years with the Allman. And
Yeah.
then Greg died. You know, we're scheduled to go out. He passed away, and Devin called me up at the end of the year, and we did this family revival at the Fillmore, by the way.
Wow.
And we had a bunch of musicians, including, and guest stars come in, and they brought me in, and I did the show with them, and that was in 2017.
Hmm.
And then he called me up in 2018 and said, "You want to go on tour?" And I've been touring with these guys for 3 years.
Damn.
Done over 200 shows with them, and they're really good. They sound a lot like the Allman Brothers,
Yeah, yeah.
you know. And we got a great slide guitar player, Johnny, and we got Dwayne plays like Dickie. Devin's got a really strong voice, and we got Ginty on keyboard. It's a great thing.
Cool.
Anyway, let's move on. You want to
Yeah,
go to another
yeah.
venue here? You ready to go?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so here we go. All right, black screen, and there we go. So now we're on the Haight Street.
Right.
So
Famous
it's around,
Haight-Ashbury district.
1967 here, and so these guys, Luther Green. I did some research on this. Luther Green is the guy with three other people, and they opened the Straight Theater, which was an old movie theater, and here we go. And so they have a problem. They can't get the permit for the dance permit. I mean, dance hall keeper permit. So they decided to call it a dance school. So school's in session, and I'm missing a slide. So they end up putting on a dance concert, and the Grateful Dead are rehearsing there during the day, and they're a band supplying them, and they do a bunch of shows, and I found out that they were having a hard time financially. So when the Beatles released the movie Magical Mystery Tour, they sent the debut copy to the United States, which played in this theater. And the benefit, it was actually sent to Chet Helms. Okay.
Oh, wow.
The Beatles really revered Chet. So they sent it to Chet. They played it for like 48 hours straight to sold out audiences. And they made like 20 grand. And they gave, 10 grand to Chet, and they kept 10 grand to keep alive. So the Beatles, really helped out this theater.
Wow. I had no idea about that.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool story. I just doing research. So here is the Grateful Dead playing on Haight Street. And in the background, you can see the Straight Theater.
Yep.
And that's where they ran the power to the stage so they could play on these flatbed trucks.
Yeah, you were saying they like literally ran power cords from the venue.
It was
across the street.
Okay, they got a permit to close the street and have a street fair. But they didn't get a permit to play music. So what happened was they backed two trucks in, flatbed trucks, and they had the equipment all under tarps, and they just unveiled it. Jerry Garcia walked up with his guitar, and they just started playing. And if you hear on the tapes, you hear Jerry. He's kind of freaking out. Oh my God, I hope we don't get busted. But they pulled off like an hour and a half show. There's the Straight Theater, and there's the flatbed trucks, and there's the 100,000 people or whatever. And
that's crazy.
It's pretty cool. And then eventually they went under, and that was it.
Yeah.
But this is where the Brotherhood of Light was formed, in this theater.
In this theater.
Yeah.
Cool.
And they did a lot of shows there. I was looking at this.
So I see it looks like kind of like the because it was a Straight Theater and now it's the Haight. So did they change the signage?
The Haight was the name of the theater all along. But they called it the Straight. I don't know why, but anyway, it was, they tore out all the seats and they made it into a rock concert venue, but they also had movies.
Right.
They did films.
That's cool.
Okay, so let's go to us again.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so you got the Fillmore, you got the Straight as well, which is sort of like seems like a fly by night type of situation too. I mean, they didn't even have permits, like, to be an actual venue, they had to kind of sideline it and pretend they're a dance school and stuff like that.
Right, and it was also like the local bands were like testing out to go to the Fillmore and the Avalon.
Oh, okay.
The
Yeah.
testing ground, but it
Right.
was on Haight Street, and Haight Street was just crazy at that point. So it was like they had like, nude dancers and all kinds of, avant-garde type, behavior compared to
Yeah.
a straight rock concert.
Right. It was just around the time when like the tour buses, when they would come to San Francisco, would bring tourists. They'd actually swing
Yeah,
by the Haight District, so people from the Midwest or whatever, or more, you know, they can come gawk at the hippies. Is that the?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. And it's down at the end of Haight Street
Yeah.
uh, by the Golden Gate Park.
Mhm.
So, whatever. It was a classic. It was just nuts, really.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And okay, so
Yeah. What do we got
pretty much
next?
later, after Bill and Chet broke up,
Uh-huh.
uh, he ended up getting this Avalon Ballroom.
And they broke up for did you, I don't know, so why what were their differences? It was really like, was it
Well, I
financial
mean,
stuff, personality
well, it was
differences?
really that he got the contract,
Uh-huh.
for all Albert Grossman's bands.
Oh, right. So he just
And
yeah.
that kind of Chet was pissed because he scooped his band out from under him.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he just didn't. That they only lasted 2 months. But Bill Graham was never going to be partners with anybody. Okay,
Right. Yeah,
yeah,
he's
he
a
just wasn't
alpha
that kind of
alpha
guy.
type
Yeah,
personality.
right. He just really wasn't.
And so Chet and the Family Dog now goes to start their own venue.
Right. Okay, I'm going to go there. Does that sound good?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, here we go. Um, Okay, and that
Oh,
is the
wow.
Avalon Ballroom.
Oh, cool.
And over here is where you went in, and upstairs is where the shows went on.
And
And this is in the middle of San Francisco on Sutter and Van Ness.
so how far is this from like the first Fillmore and
From that first Fillmore, it's about 2 miles.
oh, okay, so it's slightly different part of town.
Oh yeah, it's much more of a high class part of town.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so now we're going to go to a classic here. There's
Oh,
a
yeah.
beautiful Grateful Dead Avalon Ballroom,
Yeah.
Family Dog logo right there.
Yeah.
And this is one of their iconic images.
And
And
yeah.
Alton Kelly, Stanley Mouse
Yep.
were the artists on this. Okay.
Yeah, that's a beautiful one.
So you can see Bill Graham in his slouch hat and his sweatshirts. And now here, I'm going to show you Chet Helms and the Family Dog. Here it is. Boom.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit of a different attitude.
Yeah, they don't quite look like capitalists.
No, and look at Chet. He's like the king. He's like the king lion here. And then we've
Yeah.
got Ben Van Meter and Alton Kelly
Yeah.
and Stanley Mouse back here.
Oh,
So
wow. Yeah.
yeah, and then one of these girls is Gloria Castell, which was put on shows, and
And
I ended up doing a bunch of work with them later on in the '90s.
and so just for a little bit of light show history, the guy on the left, Ben Van Meter, was a prominent light show artist back
he
in
was
the
a
day.
filmmaker, yeah, and he did a lot of
Filmmaker. Yeah.
film, film stuff.
Yeah.
So
And
you
that's
can
cool.
see,
We have pictures of Kelly and Mouse here. I've actually, yeah,
yeah.
in
So
this.
so now they had Bill Hand do light shows,
Oh, nice. Yeah.
and so Bill, the interview on your site um, it's a little history of light shows. Is that what you call it?
Yeah.
Brief history.
I have a little blog I was running called the Brief History of Psychedelic Light Shows. So,
Right. So
and it's not my
so in the
interview, but
interview,
it's an interview he did for a San Francisco radio station that's posted on there.
mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so the interview, he says, when you walked up the stairs of the Avalon, see you up the stairs, you just engulfed in a light show. It was just all over the walls. There was curtains and windows, everything was painted white and it just was projected on, including the audience. And so
Right.
there's a couple shots of, there's
Yeah.
the Doors playing
Yeah.
there, with some projection going on.
Yeah.
And here's another one that I got new, even this one. It's in
And is this Bill's work as well?
I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, I got the poster, but I don't think there's a light show mentioned on the
Yeah.
poster. Next slide. But
And,
there's Jim Morrison, Robbie Krieger, and Densmore, and
oh yeah, that's the Doors. Yeah.
Doors. I mean, and Ray.
We should probably mention a little bit, just real quick, about Bill Ham for folks, who might be tuning in for the first time learning about light shows. He's sort of like considered the pioneer of the psychedelic rock and roll light show, right? He was kind of like the first one to really, start bringing it together. There were other people before him that used liquids on overhead projectors, but bringing it into this kind of environment was sort of like a pioneering effort on Bill Ham's part, correct?
He is the guy. There's no
He's the
doubt.
guy, yeah.
Yeah, and especially liquids.
And liquids, right? Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at this poster. Okay, so that's this is a Rick Griffin, which is my favorite artist in the '60s, and it's kind of like almost like a Star Wars sort of character. But I don't see a light show on there anywhere.
No, it had to be a little bit bigger. These were hard to read, which was the fun of these posters. You kind of had to spend some time reading it and deciphering what it actually
I
said.
can't even tell who the other band is on this small slide. But let's go to this next shot. So there's
Yeah.
you can see they're just blasting the walls with
Yeah.
Psychedelic.
And yeah, and you can clearly see here there's there's like no other stage lighting. There's no top spots, there's no washes, there's no lecos. It's just like literally boom, one big overhead projector or a couple, hitting them, and it looks like this pattern in the middle is probably created through some sort of like a ashtray or sort of like a glassware candy dish or something like that, and they have oils and stuff in there, and yeah.
Right. Okay, so I'm just going quick on this poster, this family dog. Quicksilver, Big Brother, which is he managed with Janis Joplin.
Mm-hmm.
Country Joe and the Fish, Avalon Ballroom, November. So now it's '66. It's happening. They're going. Here's the taste of the bands. Okay.
Oh,
There's
cool.
a Big Brother on the left. And there's a Grateful Dead on the right.
Yeah, so. And you get the first iteration of Dead with Pigpen still there, and yeah, that's a cool shot right there. It's so young too.
Absolutely,
it's amazing.
So, anyway, now we're going to see the Avalon Ballroom today, which is going to be shocking. But
okay,
computer world we live in. Here we go.
Okay.
There it is. Some kind of computer stations.
And this was
you can see how the white walls, the curtains, they just projected right on that.
Yeah.
And I believe that was a corner stage right here that they were playing on.
Okay.
And this curtain was part of it, and this big panel was white.
And that's where the stage was.
Yeah, I believe. Okay, so now there's the balconies they projected from.
Yep.
And it held about 800 people, probably. I'd say it's not the biggest community.
But still, it's the balconies are nice, especially for a light show, because as we know, you have to raise the projectors and everything above everybody else's head. So this seems like a pretty ideal spot to project from.
Absolutely, and let's show a shot of Bo Diddley.
Oh, cool!
The curtain behind him, obviously.
Yeah,
and that's just a classic. And now this is the ejection airplane at the Family Dog.
Yeah.
This shot, it was originally black and white. I used the color one because it was more brilliant. But about here, about in where my laser pointer is, that's the ceiling, and that's just that curtain.
Oh, really?
But, everything was white, so you just project all over the place.
Yeah.
And, so then Chet ends up getting thrown out of here because of the outrageous behavior of these hippies on the street in the middle of San Francisco, in kind of a residential area.
Right. Like you said, it was a little bit of a nicer area. So now you got all these freaks and weirdos running around.
And there was a trial. They lost. They got thrown out. So he moved out to this old slot car track on the beach. And then this was Family Dog at the beach.
Right. Yeah.
and there's a light show screen. Obviously, there's a balcony. It was a pretty good venue,
But I remember us talking about this, like the stage is, here, but they had to project, the light show had to project onto the side screen, which we know as light show artists isn't really the most ideal because everybody's looking at, it's cool to have wraparound stuff, but the focus is still the stage. It's theater. There's a center of the show. So it's kind of like, I've always found like, doing like, and I think when you talked about like, we won't do sides or ceilings anymore because it's cool when you walk in from the back and you see all that stuff. But once you're at the show, nobody's really paying attention to it.
well, Ed, who sold me the Brotherhood of Light, I actually bought his share out at the Lynn. He had a bad liver, and so he couldn't do shows anymore. So anyway, when I bought his, he said, "Look, man, you do what we always did. You project behind the band. Project when they play the music. When the music stops, the light show stops.
Yeah,
if possible.
it's
You do as bright as possible. You concentrate in the middle. You do 2 or 3 layers of stuff, no matter what. You just don't, just do one slide and go, oh, my art's beautiful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's also, you can do like, if a band's playing a slow blues, you can do like a swampy feel. It's kind of a southern thing or something. But primarily psychedelic, you want layers and you want to go behind the band. You want to go as bright as possible.
Yeah.
Like he taught me,
Yeah, I mean, we're not, what we do isn't wallpaper, it's not decorations. It's it's another performative art that adds another element to the music, which
let's go back
and together it's like greater than the sum of its parts, and that's kind of what we're here to talk about and kind of try to get across.
Let's go.
Yeah.
So that was the lesson learned from him. And I was trying to promote shows. You're not a promoter, you're a light show artist. Just do the light show. Let the promoters promote.
Yeah. It's tough wearing a lot of hats and
and so he taught me a lot, and he said, look, man, do what is proven. This was proven at the Fillmore. This was proven at Winterland. Don't vary from that, and you'll do okay with Brotherhood. Well, here comes the Allman Brothers. They want a psychedelic light show from the Fillmore. Bam, here we are, ready to go. So he was right,
Yeah.
It wasn't like trying to, the rave scene was happening and people were doing like screens hanging all over warehouses. And it was cool. It was great, but it wasn't our thing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's a little bit more of a like an ambient thing as well with the whole experience. But I mean, yeah. I mean, it seemed to work out pretty well for Brotherhood of Light because it's one of the few light shows I can think of that has lasted, from the inception of light shows. There's this, I can probably count on one hand, the light shows that have just kept going consistently, through 50 plus years or whatever of this art form. So it seems like good advice he gave you.
Well, yeah, I really, if you think about it, it really makes sense because, it's somebody's going to come along. Well, I mean, Robert Plant hired us, the Doors. I did the Doors tour.
Yeah, right. You guys did Doors in the 21st century.
I mean, it was just like,
if
you did what was done back then. And the other thing was like the lighting guy who was like from the 80s, with the Allman Brothers. He had some slides and some things made, but he had no idea how to put images behind a band.
Right.
And I had experience with that, and I'd seen it in the 60s. So,
I think in like future episodes, you're going to tell us a little bit more about sort of like the more specifics of some of the techniques and theories and philosophies that you guys had, right? About
absolutely. Well, let's get back to these venues. Since
sure. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, we got this. This is going to be Winterland.
Oh wow!
So this was back in the probably 40s.
Oh wow! These shots are from the 40s. Oh, I guess so. You see the clothing of the people on the right.
Maybe the 50s.
Yeah.
And they're doing it was an ice skating rink. But okay, once you did the ice skating, and they had this Winterland kind of scenery, right?
Right.
For the ice skating time of the year. Then they could take it out.
They pull it
off.
Their
seats.
So those were basically just stage props that were kind of
Yeah,
around to make it look nice. And just to, for context, this is Bill's other venue that was going on
correct. This is Winterland, right across the street from the
from
Fillmore,
the Fillmore,
the original Fillmore, old Fillmore.
which is
And
a lot bigger.
yeah, it holds for 4,500, 5,000 people.
Yeah.
And I went to the ice follies there when I was a kid.
Okay.
With the ice follies with the spotlights and everybody's doing,
Yeah, yeah,
doing
yeah.
like a show, right? And then they also had boxing,
Okay.
the boxing arena. Okay, so here is a picture of it back with the ice follies. You can see the sign on the left here,
Oh
ice
wow.
follies,
Yeah, yeah.
and the old, 60s cars, right here,
Hmm.
50s. And,
Yeah, it looks like the 50s. Yeah.
okay, so then now Bill Graham takes it over, and here it is. And this is the Grateful Dead
Oh
band.
wow. Yeah, you can see the banners on the sides. That's
Yeah,
cool.
there's there's the crowd, and he's got,
Yeah.
there it is. It's a big building.
Yeah, yeah. That's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, and now you can see there's the Volkswagens, Ford van. It's a little different time.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
That's
okay, so
cool.
this is one of the infamous posters from there.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a classic. That's
Yeah, Jimi
Rick
Hendrix, if you can't read it, and
Griffin
John
is the
Mayall,
artist on this.
Albert King, and I don't know. It looks like Little Princess 109.
Was the light show. Yeah.
And okay, so when somebody like Cream or Hendrix in '67 came to town, okay, who's like, these are like the biggest bands in the world, right?
Yeah.
They played at Winterland. They
Right.
could draw 5,000 people.
Yeah.
So now the light show screen at Winterland is rear projection. There it is.
Oh yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, from the technical reasons and, the differences between what rear projection is and what front projection is. Because so far, everything we've seen so far has been front projection, meaning, somebody's in the back on a balcony and they're washing the stage, right? But in this case, what's going on here?
Well, they got this rear projection screen, which is kind of a gray material, which it kind of works like a television screen. And so if you project behind
From the back.
from the back, it'll just shoot out towards the audience. And then you can have all your lights hit the band and
Right.
not wash out the images and bounce up on the screen because it's coming from the rear.
Right,
And
because
then,
so you don't have the conflicting lights. Like you can see clearly that there's some spotlights on the musicians here, but if you try to have that kind of a white spotlight with a projector, I mean, it would wash out the image completely. There's no way you can do that. But now that if you have, the back of the screen being illuminated from the, from the light show in the back, and then the spotlights, and my understanding too is that this is a lot better for photographing both the musicians and the light show at the same time, because you
right.
can.
And that's why the Fillmore East is rear projection, which
Yeah.
we're going to do another show on that place.
Yeah.
And you can see that this is Jerry Abrams headlights, because I look up, the Young Bloods are playing, and Jerry Abrams is the light show.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's doing some kind of weird motif on the side with slides or something. And then he's got the liquids in the middle, which is on one of those cutouts. It looks like a young.
Right, and we talked about this in episode 1 about with some of the heavy light stuff that they did, where they would actually have a mask, like you said, a photo positive, which is basically a transparent, a translucent sheet that would kind of black out all the outside of it.
Yeah, which is right. If you follow this line right here,
Yeah.
you can see and then there's the liquids.
Right.
It's like through a window, and then this could be slides that are layered on top with color wheels. It's a still. So
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to the next one, which is Winterland, and that's Led Zeppelin.
Nice.
Okay? And that's the Brotherhood of Light. They ended up doing 12 Led Zeppelin shows.
Oh wow.
Throughout that.
That's epic.
Luck of the draw. They got Led Zeppelin.
That's pretty epic. Yeah.
And so you can see Ed was doing liquids there. And, there's Jimmy Page.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. 69, 7th of November, obviously.
I got my friend trying to sneak in here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, you got a cat. Cool. Yeah, Brotherhood of Light somewhere on this poster. I can't remember where, but this is the Led Zeppelin.
Oh yeah, and then the
Yeah,
Rolling Stones are playing. Oh wait, that's an advertisement actually for the Oakland Coliseum.
yeah, they're actually. So this is when it started to get to like the Rolling Stones
Yeah,
started to do arena rock.
right. It's getting big now. Like
Yeah,
this is
well,
yeah.
only a couple bands did that at this point. So here is Quicksilver doing Winterland with the
Yeah.
rear protection light shows. Liquids, probably Brotherhood of Light, just killer liquids looking
Mm-hmm.
awesome. And I'm going to go to this next one because it reveals the light shows more for our light show crowd.
Oh
So
yeah.
there's the grommet screen with the rear
Mm-hmm.
projector image up on top, and there's Yorma and Grace,
Yeah.
and you see all the projectors up in here.
Right. So it's a little hard to see from this picture, but those are people in the balcony, or actually the seats behind it.
Yeah,
And what you're looking at is their projectors.
right here. And it's
You know,
hitting up in here. You can see that's
right
kind of a liquidy thing.
from behind. Yeah.
And then the band's playing underneath it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
And this is Jefferson Airplane here.
this Jefferson Airplane,
Yeah.
yeah. And now we're going to go to the famous New Year's poster. So the tradition started with a Grateful Dead playing there's actually one before this, 1968. They started playing at Winterland.
Mm-hmm.
And they played every New Year's till 79.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, it's kind of like Fish playing
MSG.
Madison Square Garden, right? New Year's.
Oh yeah.
It's a
And
sort of thing.
And I go every year.
So
Yeah.
this was Winterland, Grateful Dead, and then I'll show you this.
Oh man, that's a nice crowd.
Nothing stopping them there, you know what I mean?
I mean, the energy in that room must have been fantastic on, especially New Year's night. Like,
Right. And they would play till 6 in the morning. And then
right. I was going to say, like, yeah. Oh, yeah. And they would serve actually breakfast on the way out for people. So were there like permit rules, or was this kind of, because you can never do this now, like, especially at not something like the Garden, but how, like, were like the rules just less, relaxed, or like, how did they get away with playing till 6 a.m.?
There was no limit. I mean, they didn't sell alcohol, so there was no like 2 o'clock thing in California.
Right.
That's the budget too.
Interesting.
So it was just, if you could stay, you could go to the show, and
that's cool.
And that, San Francisco is a loose town,
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up there. My parents, they liked to drink and party, and they went out with their friends, and we went fishing. I mean, it was just, if my parents did drugs, they would have been hippies, but they weren't. They were from World War II generation. So I had girls at my house, and it was just a loose place, man. San Francisco was a great place to grow up. I mean, it was just awesome.
Oh, back then, especially, I imagine.
Bill had hired cops that were security, so.
Oh, good. Yeah, so you got a little, yeah.
You could smoke pot in the venues.
Mm-hmm.
It was it was a good time.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
man, let's go to the end of the light show here at Winterland, where the Wall of Sound by Stanley Osley is built. You can see the balcony where they projected that previous shot, and
right,
in this case, you can't do it because there's a wall of sound there.
Yeah. What about in between? I see you got the Rolling Stones. Oh, you got the Dead banner, and you got the Rolling Stones one. Yeah. Were they able to project in that middle? Is that a screen, or was that just
around 71? They just quit doing light shows at Winterland.
Right.
It just became a rock venue, and like here's like the Who playing there.
Mm-hmm.
Look at this, a mob scene, and then he's throwing his guitar.
He's throwing his guitar in the air, yeah.
Fantastic, and then along, by the mid 70s, it was just a rock venue. Look at the stage, full on lighting.
Right. Now you got like a traditional trussing and cans and stuff like that going on. So the
permanent PA hanging there.
Yeah.
And
because you said too, they
filtering bands through, week by week, and if they sold the seats behind the stage.
Right, because the light show was taking up those seats, and so now they can also sell those seats, which exactly. Bill Graham would want to sell those seats.
So and there was bands like like Tom Petty and Bruce Springsteen and Ritchie Blackmore and Johnny Winter and
Kept guys
Mountain.
who weren't really, they weren't really like traditional psychedelic. They weren't psychedelic at all. Some of these guys either, like you said, Rod Stewart or something
It
like
was
that.
just more. It was a rock venue,
Yeah,
UFO, and it was hard
and
rock.
now the rock star, the front man is the star.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
But it was great. There's a lot of great shows there.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, let's. I'm gonna go. Let's go back to us.
yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
And
So we went through so to recap, we went through the first Fillmore, we went to the Straight Theater, and then we also went to the Avalon, which is kind of like an answer, Chet Helms's answer to the Fillmore, and then went to the other venue, which was Bill Graham's bigger venue, the Winterland. Yeah. So
right.
and these were kind of like the main venues here in town at the time.